Why it's okay to live a boring life. Boredom is inevitable, ennui is optional. The only horrible thing in the world is ennui, Dorian. That is the one sin for which there is no forgiveness. Lord Henry Wotton, The Picture of Dorian Gray. I feel completely fine living a boring life. Each morning, I wake up, brew a cup of coffee, then sit down and write until noon. Then I have my lunch break and spend the rest of the afternoon either studying, doing chores, or going to the gym. By sundown, I wrap up and wind down, read a book, watch Netflix, or play a Switch game until I fall asleep. That's what most days in my life look like, and I'm completely fine with that. That is, until I start doom scrolling on Instagram. Comparison is the thief of joy. When I flick open Instagram and scroll down its feed, I can see what my friends are doing with their lives. This has become the main way I keep in touch with them, with me living far away, during a pandemic. But, as I'm sure you can relate, if this behavior gets too far, it can become harmful. It's inevitable that you start comparing your life with others, and consequently feel that yours is inadequate or less than. Life isn't all sunshine and rainbows, and yet that's all everybody shows on their profile. Nobody can compete with everybody else's highlight reels. My mood crumbles every time I see someone hang out with a bunch of cool-looking people, dance their heart out, have dinner at a fancy restaurant, enjoy the sunset on a beach, get married, have kids, or whatever activities or events that are considered high in social value. Why do they bother me? Because I got none of those in my life. As you've read above, a typical day in my life is completely low-key and solitary. Seeing people mingle and jingle makes me feel like an antisocial outcast, which I kinda am, but it never really bothers me unless I compare myself with someone else. Comparison aside, though, I like living a boring life. And it's not like my boring life is devoid of benefits either. The power of routine. Do you know what's the best part of a boring life? You get to live the same day, every day. Yes, you read that right. Read it again, in bold, just to be sure. You get to live the same day, every day. When reading that sentence, most people would think it a punishment, not a privilege. There are movies like Groundhog Day that take this idea to the extreme, and paint a bleak picture of it, but in reality, it's not that bad. I'm sure you're familiar with James Clear's Atomic Habits. If you like reading books, like it all, it's practically impossible to not know about this one book, with it being on every bookstore's best-selling list, both online and offline. The main idea of Atomic Habits can be summed up in one sentence: small acts, when done continuously, compounds. And that's the power of living the same day, every day. You do the same thing continuously, and it compounds. Take my routine, for example. Writing every day makes me a slightly better writer each day. Going to the gym makes me slightly healthier. Reading books makes me slightly smarter. Watching Netflix makes me slightly more cultured and more familiar with new languages. I often watch non-English shows. Everything compounds and I get better at these things each day. From the outside, it looks boring. But these are the activities that matter to me. These are the results that I want to amass. More importantly, these are the things that give me joy. Do what makes you happy. So, the previous section is what a boring life does to you in terms of growth and productivity. Now let's talk about what it does for your happiness. How do you end up with a boring life? You don't just wind up there for no reason. There's a cause and effect for everything. Think about it, you're choosing to repeat the same things over and over, often without thinking. It's almost like your mind and body move on their own. Why is that? Here's my take: your boring day is your path of least resistance. It consists of things you'll do no matter what, regardless of external interferences. For instance, I write and read every day because I genuinely enjoy it. It takes no effort whatsoever to incorporate these activities into my day. Even if I'm inundated with my work and other responsibilities, I'll still find time to read and write, like a river stream finding gaps between rocks. If you love something, you'll find a way. Cliché but true. Once in a while, I venture outside my routine. I hang out with friends, have a drink at a bar, go hiking, mosh at a concert. I do these things to add variety to my boring life. But I won't do these things unless there's a significant incentive for me to do them, such as to have a good time with people I care about or to join a new group and get to know new people. However, when I'm left to my own devices, I'll always choose my boring life. I'll keep coming back to it no matter what. Boredom is inevitable, ennui is optional. There's an old Buddhist saying, made popular by Haruki Murakami in his book, What I Talk About When I Talk About Running: pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. I'm sure you've heard of it before. It's a profound adage. Pain is an unavoidable reality of life, you'll encounter it everywhere. But you can choose which pain bothers you, you can choose your suffering. For example, You can choose the pain of exercising when you're young or being sickly when you're old. If you choose to exercise, you'll still feel pain, but it doesn't bother you because you're aware of the more painful alternative. The pain seems a reasonable price, and so it doesn't make you suffer. On the other hand, if you choose to laze around, you'll end up with a frail and sickly body when you're old. But if that's what you choose intentionally, it shouldn't bother you. You've borrowed something when you're young, and now you're paying your debt. It's only logical. You chose this suffering. With similar logic, I'd like to propose another saying: boredom is inevitable, ennui is optional. Boredom, like pain, is an inescapable reality of life. But ennui is a result of your choices. Boredom is everyone's problem, ennui is your own fault. Boredom is simply a lack of stimulation. If you can stand it, just do nothing. If you can't, just stimulate yourself, and that's not a complicated problem at all in our current world. With all the stimuli available to us, it's almost impossible to feel bored. If anything, nowadays it's harder to stay still. Ennui, on the other hand, is more deep-rooted. To me, it's like a more sinister form of boredom. Ennui is what you get when you can't stand boredom but chose not to do anything about it, which is why, as Lord Henry Wotton said, ennui is the only sin for which there's no forgiveness. Lingering in ennui is like senselessly inflicting suffering on yourself. If you want it gone, you need only say the word, then act on it. Coda, having a boring life isn't that bad. It could even be good for you, and won't ever become a problem unless you make it so. And even when your boredom starts turning into ennui, you can always do something about it. Try something new. Challenge yourself. Go out of your comfort zone. Live dangerously. I can go on with more cliches, but I think you get the idea. You don't have to do these things unless you want to, though. After all, if it truly gives you joy, it's totally okay to live a boring life.